Hi, and welcome to Compelling Conversations where law meets business. I'm Dara Rosenbaum, the founding partner and attorney at Rosenbaum Taylor in New York. My own journey has showed me the power of learning from others, whether from their successes or from their failures, and that's what led me to start this show. In each episode, my goal is to have a compelling conversation with a business leader, business owner, or other inspiring person who can share their experiences, their advice, and their perspective. I hope you'll learn from them and be inspired by them, just as I'm sure you will, just as I'm sure I will. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. My guest today is Ashley Krauss. I'm going to put this in front of me because I want to do her justice. She is the founder and CEO of A Little Something White. Following a successful career in finance at Goldman Sachs, Ashley launched ALSW in the fall of 2012 with the goal of bringing the best of bridal fashion to Fairfield County and offering brides and their families an experience infused with kindness, positivity, and celebration. With a focus on the customer experience and customer service above all else, Ashley quickly grew A Little Something White to be one of the nation's top bridal boutiques and was recognized in 2014 by Brides Magazine as one of the top 50 bridal salons in the country. A true entrepreneur, Ashley is smitten with every facet of her business, from learning the details of a bride's wedding and picking out gowns that help bring her vision to life, to being a calming voice when she's worried, or going to the moon and back to solve any issue that arises. She also hand selects gowns for the boutique and even enjoys digging into the Excel spreadsheet to figure out how to make ALSW even better. When not at the boutique, you'll find Ashley spending time with her husband, 2 sons, and golden retriever puppy, volunteering at her kids' schools, and riding her Peloton and lifting weights. So welcome, Ashley. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thanks, Dara. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you, from Goldman Sachs to bridal salon owner is not the typical path.
No, it definitely is not. I was very fortunate that I got a great job right out of college. As you mentioned, I worked for Goldman Sachs and I was in various capacities for about 8 years just coming out of school. And I had a great experience there and I did well in finance. But it was really the turning point for me was after the birth of our first son. My husband and I, we were living in Connecticut at the time. We were commuting in and out of New York City. And we had this wonderful little baby. And we just felt that it was really hard for both of us to be doing the commute at that point. It was, we were gone all day long. And we kind of said, that's not exactly why we had kids. We want one of us to at least be around more often than not. And so after a year after having him, I did go back to work after having him. I wanted to make sure that the commute was something that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to assume. So about a year after I had him, I resigned from my job there. And within about a week, I realized that I definitely did need to be working. And I love my kid and now my kids. They're insane and amazing and wonderful, but I absolutely love working. And so my next step was to figure out what the next phase of my life was. And I had always had an interest in owning my own business and a passion for the wedding industry. I really have no idea why, because as a young person, I mean, back in college, I used to say, I'm going to work in the wedding industry someday. So it was always something that was in the back of my mind. And there was a store for sale in the Connecticut area that I did look at. But when I evaluated it, everything about it was, well, I would change this, and this. And so I had done all the research on the area and kind of looked at this business and decided, there's room for a store in Fairfield County where the gowns are gorgeous and it's some of the best names that you can find around the globe, but a store that has a really amazing personality where brides come and they're treated with kindness and they're treated as though they're important and they're not looked at as a dollar sign, where they know they're going to come and get an amazing gown for the price, and where there's a wide range of prices. And so where we're respectful of all budgets. And so I really designed a store that, yes, has beautiful gowns, but just I wanted a store that had a great personality. And so I spent about 6 months writing my business plan while I was home with my son. Popped him in the car one day, drove around Fairfield County, and wrote down the names of commercial real estate companies. And as luck would have it, the first one I called was a women-owned business over in Westport, Saugatuck Commercial Real Estate. She had started her own business in her adult years and loved that I was a young woman business owner, or to-be business owner, and linked me up with my landlord, my first landlord in Darien. And I had an amazing opportunity in an amazing space that she helped me outfit. And we opened in September 2012. And within a month of opening my doors, I looked at my husband and I said, this better be successful, because this is exactly what I want to do with the rest of my life.
That's
So
terrific.
that's how it came to be. And yes, it was very, very, I try and tell brides will ask me when I'm in an appointment, they'll ask me that exact question.
Mhm.
And I still have not figured out how to distill it down into like a 1-minute response.
It doesn't have to be.
I try, but it's hard because it's so, I don't want to say random, because there was a lot of steps that led me to that, but it wasn't straightforward. It certainly wasn't straightforward at all.
And not typical.
Not typical. No, definitely not typical, but useful to have the business background.
Absolutely. So you said your first landlord, are you still in the same space you started in 2012?
No, we actually we'll celebrate our 10-year anniversary this September, which I am really excited about, just given the statistics that you hear about the survival of businesses in the first 5 years and then the next 5 years. But our first 9 years were spent, we've been in Darien, Connecticut the entire time we've been open. We just moved in October, about a half mile away from our first location. Our first location was a 2,500 square foot space. It was absolutely perfect and gorgeous and amazing for what we needed, really the first 6 or 7 years. And a few years ago, we started to feel we had outgrown the space, but didn't have really there wasn't another option readily available. And so we got very lucky about just under a year ago. There's a Brooks Brothers had decided to not reopen coming out of COVID, and they had decided to close a lot of stores around the country. And I hate to say we were fortunate, because I don't like to find good fortune in others' misfortune, but they had vacated their space, and they had a beautiful, anyone who's been to a Brooks Brothers knows that they have very high-end everything. And so we had an opportunity to move into their old space and do some renovations, but a lot of the framework was really great. And so kind of as luck would have it, we had this opportunity and we went for it, and we renovated the space, and we moved in on October 1st, and we've been there now for the last about 4 months. So that's a new development for us. And we went from one floor that was 2,500 square feet, and we're now 3 floors in a total of 13,000 square feet.
That's terrific. Now, how did you learn retail? How did you teach? Did you teach yourself? Somebody teach you? Or how did you learn retail?
No, I think, well, the thing I always say about Bridal is it is retail. At the end of the day, we're a brick and mortar store and we're selling products. Yes. But Bridal is very much an experience. I call it experiential retail, which I don't think is, groundbreaking concept, but it's coming to shop with us is different than your run of the mill retail experience. And the way we work with our products is we have to have one sample of everything we sell, because everything we do for our clients is custom order and in some cases made to measure. So what we have hanging in the store is just an example of what a bride will wear on her wedding day, but we'll order her a gown to her measurements, to her size, to her specifications. So a lot of times what I think is the most challenging about retail, if you haven't had the background, is inventory management. And we don't really have a tremendous amount of that, because we only have to have one of every item that we sell, because everything we're doing is taking an order off of that item. So really at the end of the day, it comes down to, do you have an eye to pick out the gowns that brides are going to love? And I'm fortunate in that respect, because the bride that I'm buying for is very much myself back when I was a bride. I'm a very, I would say, more traditional with the twist is what we always say, or classic with a twist. And that's exactly who I am. And so when I'm buying, it's not all that complicated. That being said, over the years, I have realized there's a little bit more that goes into it. And so there is a little bit more it's more analytical than anyone would think. I probably make it a little more analytical than a lot of people do, but I don't buy based on emotion. I'm very hard and fast to my numbers. So I would say that part of it isn't complicated. The part that's most important is connecting with other people. And as I always say when I'm hiring people, that's not something you can teach. It's something that you have or you don't. And so I actually think that how you communicate with others, how you treat others, that's the most important thing in the bridal fashion world.
Mhm.
And so fortunately, I didn't have to have a huge background in retail. My sister is in retail, and I spoke to her extensively before I started it. And she said, Ash, you can do this. The fashion part of it isn't rocket science. You've got this. Like you shouldn't be worried at all. So I decided she was right, and I went with what she was saying because it was easier to grasp onto that than to worry about what I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, from my own entrepreneurial journey, I know how important it was for me to have resources and people to reach out to and bounce ideas off of. How have you found that? Is that something that you've done, something that you haven't needed to do?
Yeah, actually, it's been really cool to see when I first started out in 2012, there was no real great industry resources for getting knowledge and sharing information about the bridal industry.
Mhm.
And I would say about 3 or 4 years in, I was connected to a woman who ran a national training group for bridal salon owners and their teams. And she came in and did an intensive at our store and helped me kind of right size a few things, just a few things that I was trying to figure out that after a few years of running the business, I wanted to improve on. And in getting connected with her, she ended up kind of taking her brand national and running a few conferences, which I was then able to get involved in. And actually I was involved more on the helping other bridal salons side of things, like as a speaker and a mentor. So I would say now there's great industry groups, and I've been to a number of conferences where I'm able to get to know other bridal salon owners from around the country. And that's been so unbelievable because everyone faces similar issues, and there's nuances depending on what market you're in and what area of the country. But for the most part, everyone faces similar challenges or has similar successes. And so it's amazing to bounce things off of other bridal salon entrepreneurs because it's a great sharing of ideas. Our industry is very nuanced in that the biggest players in the industry, it's all small business owners like myself. It's hyper local. For the most part, you're servicing the community you're in and maybe the few states around you, depending on how big your state is. Some are
Mhm.
just within their state. And so it's nice to have other people who function similarly to you. And people are, for the most part, pretty collaborative. Even one of my key competitors in Connecticut, I'm extremely close with, and we talk frequently and help each other out with various problems. So it's nice in that regard. Um, but that's something that's changed a lot over the years.
And how does that work? How do you feel about that? And do you feel competitive with other bridal salons in your immediate area, or is it more collaborative? What do you find?
I would say it certainly depends on the business. The one that I just referenced, I would say we have a healthy competition. We don't have a tremendous amount of crossover. She's over an hour away. So we do have some, but I would say we've fostered a really nice relationship over the years. And I would say we tend to be more collaborative than anything. I think I'm always aware of my competition, but I feel that I honestly don't feel that anyone can compete with us in terms of the positive environment that I fostered at the store.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's the gowns you have that drive the sales. I think sometimes it does, but I think really people come to us all the time. Brides come to us and say, I've been all over the place. And every other place I went to, I said, I just want to go back to a little something white. I just want to go spend time with them. They're so nice. I just want to be with them. And we hear that a lot.
Mhm.
So I'm always aware of what other people are doing. I know I'm not going to sell to every bride who walks in the door, but I want to deliver an amazing experience to every bride who walks in the door. Because even when that bride goes somewhere else to buy her gown, there's instances where we don't have the exact gown she wants and she does buy it elsewhere. I
Mhm.
still want her, I want to get that referral. I still
Mhm.
want her to say to her friend, I didn't end up getting my gown there, but I loved them and you have to go see them.
Right.
So that's my goal. That is
Mhm.
ultimately my goal. I hope we sell them the gown. So I don't worry too much about my competition. I think we've had stores crop up here and there, but there hasn't really ever been anything that's been overly threatening to us. And I tend to believe that collaboration is better than competition.
Mhm. How much do you think the culture of your company plays a role in kind of that experience that a bride has coming and walking in the door?
I think it's huge. I think it's critical to our success. I think a big part of our success and who we are. I mean, yes, you need somebody who's on top of the financials and knows the business inside and out, and that's where my business background came in really handy. But really, the core of our being as a business is our core values, and I would say I've always hired people who are very much aligned with those core values. There are things like empathy, respect, hard work, teamwork, inclusivity. Those are just a few examples. And I think by nature, I always tell this to people when I'm hiring because I rarely get people who have had bridal experience before,
Mhm.
bridal industry experience or bridal fashion experience.
Mhm.
Most of the time, it's someone coming to me who hasn't had that, but thinks they would be a good fit for the organization. And a lot of times they start with, I know I haven't had bridal experience, but, and I let them talk, but I usually explain to them or explain to people in terms of my hiring, I don't need someone who has had bridal fashion experience or who's been in a position where they have had to be overly salesy. I need people in my organization who know how to connect with others, who are going to treat the person on the opposite end like it's their own part of their own family.
Mhm.
I always say to people when I'm faced with a difficult customer decision, I pretend as though the customer is my sister, and I say, "What decision would I make for my sister?" And then that usually guides me to the right decision for my customer, you know?
Mhm.
And so I really look to hire people who just naturally embody those core values. They're not telling me that they're important to them in conversations with them and hearing them describe situations that they've encountered over their life. They essentially, those core values come to the surface and you realize, yes, this is a person who would be a good fit for my organization.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's okay, where is the right fit? Are they more marketing? Are they more back office? Are they more sales? But that's sort of guided me in terms of who I've chosen. And I would say universally, everyone always tells me how loved my team is. Customers constantly stop me and say, "I just want you to know how amazing this person was or this person was."
Mhm.
So that, yeah.
And what kind of challenges has your team faced? I mean, I know it's such a high pressure industry. It's the most important dress of a woman's life in many cases.
Mhm.
Any issues that, just kind of a near horror story, how about?
Oh gosh, near horror story. Well, I will say, I mean, we're pretty type A, and that starts with yours truly. So I probably hire, like, I have people that sit behind the scenes at my store whose sole responsibility it is to review customers' measurements, make sure they agree with the sizing the stylist has selected. They place the orders, they receive the orders, they check it in, they double check customization. So we have a pretty crazy process behind the scenes so that we make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So
Mhm.
I can genuinely say in 9 years, we've never had an unsolvable problem. We've never had a gown arrive past someone's wedding date. We've never had a gown. I mean, we've had it times where we've had to reorder a gown for someone. Maybe we decided we were comfortable ordering one size down and it came in too small and that wasn't the bride's fault. So we order her a new gown. But again, that's not to me, that's not a horror story. That's just like a natural natural situation. I think really the biggest challenge is less these big monstrous problems and more that this is bridal, and specifically for salespeople, bridal is an extremely emotionally draining and physically draining job. We will go in on a Saturday and go from 10 a.m. to sometimes 5:30, 6 p.m. straight.
Mhm.
And despite the fact that my team blocks themselves off for lunch breaks, if their appointment runs over, the way my team works is they'd rather work with the appointments, work with brides, sell the gown. So they will skip lunch because they don't want to make somebody wait. So again, there's times where we literally work straight through for 7 hours with no break on your feet. But it's not just physical. You're not just getting brides in and out of dresses. You're measuring them, but then you're talking at the same time. You're not just talking, you're listening. You have to process what they say. So it's for the right person, it's really fun. I
Mhm.
would say Saturdays, which are our busiest days, they're the days you tend to be back to back, are the days I come home the most jazzed up because there's just so much energy in the place. That
Mhm.
being said, it's so tiring. And I think it's really easy when you're constantly pouring into other people to get a little bit burned out. So I think that's the biggest challenge for my people is when you've done it for years, how do you stay excited about the job? Now, that being said, I mean, I have one person who's been with me for 8 years doing this, and she's even more on today than she was when she started. I think
Mhm.
for her, I think it's what she was meant to do. And so I think when you have the right personality, it's finding the person who has the right personality for this. It
Mhm.
works really nicely. So a lot of it comes with just having a really good sense of self and being a little bit more mature and not, a lot of times you ask for the sale and you don't necessarily get it. And you have to be able to not internalize that and take it personally.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest challenge. But fortunately, I'm proud that I can say that we really have not had any horror story
That's
situation.
amazing. I mean, that's obviously a testament to you and your team.
Yes, well, there's times, I mean, there's stress involved, like we take and we bear that stress, but fortunately, because we order everything so far in advance and we have gowns arrive to usually 2.5 months before the wedding so that we have time to perform alterations. If something runs late, it usually just means that we have to do alterations faster, but it's never like, oh my God, are we going to miss this person's wedding? Like that,
Mhm.
we would never get ourselves into that situation. We would not accept an order if we thought there was even a chance we would miss their wedding.
Mhm.
So that helps. That
Yeah,
definitely helps.
absolutely. I know
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear you say that it's physically demanding. Is it the standing on your feet all day, or is there something else that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah. Well, when I started the business, I was 30 and now I'm 40. And so when I was 30, it was not so bad. I could stand all day in a 4-inch heel and I would be fine at the end of the day. Now, over time, the more years you do it, the harder the harder it becomes on your body. Whether that's the job or the body, I'm not sure. But I think it's really just it's the standing on your feet all day. It's the fact that by Saturday you have a full week of work in you
Mhm.
without having had a chance, like without having necessarily a great chance to reset.
Mhm.
And it's we physically carry the gowns across the floor. I mean, and when you're bringing a gown into the fitting room for your bride, sometimes you have two in this hand, two in this hand, and you've got them over your shoulders, and they're heavy. And then you get them into the fitting room, you have to unzip them, put them down, let the bride step into them, pull them up, zip the bride into it. And then we have for instances where the gowns don't fit, either too small or too big, we have to get these clamps that you basically fix the bride into the gown. And those are really, really hard. Like they're actually we sometimes give them to customers so they can see, and customers sometimes can't even get them open. So it's just all together, like it's like
Yeah.
the cumulative amount of all that for hours on end
Mhm.
it's just really tiring.
It's like I never thought about that aspect of the job.
Yeah, there's times I have my Apple Watch on, and there's times on a really busy day where I've walked 6 or 7 miles, and that was back when we were in 2,500 square feet.
Mhm.
So it's amazing. We have a little bit more support now that we're in the new space. We have a high school intern program where we have interns on the weekends who come and help us keep getting gowns back onto the floor so that the stylist doesn't have to do it as much because it's hard time wise now that we're in a bigger footprint. It's
Mhm.
harder to get gowns back onto the floor. So there's a little bit less of that now. We do have a little bit more help,
Mhm.
but even nonetheless, it's still pretty still pretty physical.
I know you just moved into new space, obviously,
Yeah.
so this may be a premature question, but what's the vision for the future of the business? Are you looking to open more locations? Are you looking to grow? Are you looking to stay just as wonderful as you are?
Well, I definitely want us to never lose the core of what makes us special, and that's again the kindness, the customer service, the
Mhm.
the really positive personality that we have, the attention to detail. So no matter what I do, that's like the bare minimum. We have to have that. I think my
Mhm.
biggest focus right now is on growing the business that I have right now. Bridal is what we've always been known for, and we've really grown that and established that, and that's still I think to this day like what most people think about when they think about a little something white. But now that we have all this space, I'm expanding into additional product categories as well. And so we now have our store sort of bridals on the second floor, and the first floor is bridesmaids dresses, which we've always had, but by virtue of them having their own space and their own kind of part of the new space, we've already grown that business dramatically. So we're
Mhm.
looking to grow that even more. We now have flower girl dresses, which for this boy mom I love because they're adorable and they're just so cute.
Yeah,
Your little Charlotte's got to come try them on one day. And
absolutely.
also more importantly, we're expanding into evening wear, both gowns and tuxes and suits for men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big focus. That's probably my biggest focus right now. And I think our biggest opportunity. I'm really, when it comes to evening wear, it's both mothers of the bride, mothers of the groom, but also people who have to attend formal events, mothers of the bar and bat mitzvah, mothers of the debutante. And I'm really looking to do it differently than a lot of other stores have done it. I think mother of the bride gets a certain bad rap for
Mm-hmm.
what people conjure up in their mind when they're thinking about a mother of the bride dress.
Too many
And so
movies, right?
I'm trying to do it in the a little something white way. The nice thing about that is I hope for it to be a repeat business. I hope that mom that comes in, buys a gown for her daughter's wedding, comes back for her son's wedding, or for the event that she has. Bridal has always been sort of one and done. You sell to a bride and you hope you get her referrals, but she's probably not coming back. Or if she is, it's probably like a really long ways away.
Mm-hmm.
But with evening wear, that's something where hopefully we can build a relationship with a customer over time and service her for multiple events. Likewise, with the suits and tuxes, which we're literally just in the process of launching right now and will be live later this month. That's another instance where we hope to be establishing a relationship with a groom when he's purchasing for his wedding, but that's an area where we hope to help him down the road when he needs items for work, for a new job, for an interview, that sort of thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we will be able to generate a bit of a repeat business, which we don't have a lot of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, a bride is a bride once and then she gets married and we're done. So
Right.
that's my biggest focus right now. I think would I consider another store down the road? Absolutely. But I'm also, for me, at a really pivotal point where in terms of what my kids' ages are, they're 8 and 11, almost 12. And I love that I'm able to have this amazing business, but also be super present in their lives. That was ultimately why I left Goldman when I did, because I wanted to be part of their lives and be able to volunteer at school and
Mm-hmm.
go to this activity easily without any problems. And so I hold very dear, and I'm very careful about how much I commit myself, because I know that time is fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, maybe when they go off to college, I'll start another one. But right now I'm so happy with what I have. And I have so much on my plate that my near and medium term focus is on the business that I have right now.
Gotcha. Well, you have been super generous with your time and your perspective and your advice, and thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm
thank
going
you
to
for
ask you
having me.
ask you one final question, which is,
Yeah.
so what is something that you've learned along the way that you wish you'd learned earlier?
Yeah. I think it would have been really, really helpful if early on I knew just how much I could rely on other people when you hire the right people. And I'm talking about my team. And I think we hear this a lot with entrepreneurs. You start this business that you're super passionate about and you're really good at everything. I think in general, a lot of entrepreneurs are literally really good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And as your business starts to grow, you hold on to all these balls and all these facets of your business, and it's fine and it works and it's great
Mm-hmm.
and people are happy and you feel so proud because look at all this that I'm doing, and I'm doing it great and I'm doing it all great.
Mm-hmm.
And then it grows a little more, and then you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get everything done. And instead of thinking, how can I delegate some of these, who can do them and who can do them well, you start to feel overwhelmed with, oh, I have to do all this. How am I going to do all this? And so I think it actually took a very interesting situation for me to realize just how much I can trust everybody. And I'm actually so glad I realized it when I did, because I think it completely changed the trajectory of my business. So when the business was 5 years old, 5 years old. Yeah, 5 years old. My husband got an opportunity to relocate to North Carolina, again, business in Connecticut. And it was a really good career opportunity for him. And we felt like it was something that he had to pursue. So we relocated our family for 2 years down to the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And at that point, I wasn't going to be physically present in my business every day. So it forced me to offload a lot of the day-to-day responsibilities to two newly appointed store managers. For 2 years, we were gone, and then we moved back to the area. So I'm back involved in the day-to-day of the business now. But it was an amazing learning experience for me in that I had to give up some control to somebody else. And what I thought was going to be incredibly challenging was this beautiful, magical thing. Everyone, when I stepped out of their way, they did things so far better than I ever could have done. And it was shocking. It really knocks your ego down a notch and makes you realize that you're not that, I'm not that important. It's not that I'm
Oh,
not
I don't
that
know that.
important, but I'm not that important for a lot of these day-to-day things to take place. And are
Mhm,
people going to do things perfectly all the time? No. But I think if you have the right people in the right roles,
mhm,
it's a business can function really, really well. And so I think that's something I wish I had known earlier. I think when we moved to North Carolina, I was extremely burned out. And being able to take a step back, I realized how much I missed the business. So
mhm,
I was so relieved when my husband got the opportunity for us to move back to the Northeast, because I was hardcore missing my business.
mhm.
It was like as if we had left one of our children up in the Northeast.
Oh,
And like that's how I look at my business. I always talked about having 3 kids, and I'm definitely not. So my business is my third child.
there you go.
And so again, I think just knowing that if you, I think it's not enough to just say I can just delegate to people and they're going to do it right. You have to have the right people in the right roles in order to do so. But I think if you have people that are aligned with your vision and you have your people in the right roles, you can you can give them responsibilities, and it's a really nice thing for them to grow themselves. And so that's the biggest thing that I wished I had learned. And I didn't even realize what a great thing it would be. I love watching my team take on new responsibilities and succeeding. It's one of my favorite things as a business owner now.
Mhm,
And so I think that that's been probably the biggest learning experience for me. And it takes trust, but it can be done.
mhm, absolutely. Well, please share where people can find you and where they can find a little something white.
Yes, yes. So, A Little Something White is now located at 987 Boston Post Road in Darien, Connecticut. If anyone's familiar, it's the old Brooks Brothers building. It has these navy blue awnings outside. It's a brick building. We're literally right on the Darien train line. So you essentially get off the train station in Darien, and you almost walk into the doors of our business, which is great for, we have a lot of New York City brides that now just take the train out to see us. And they're basically right there. Personally, I am someone who loves talking with other business owners, customers, whoever it may be, about my business and what we offer. So anyone who wants to talk to me personally could reach out to me at Ashley, Ashley, at alswbridal.com. And yeah, that would be the best way to find us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that offer. I'm sure that everybody would appreciate and would get tremendous value out of speaking to you. I know I
Oh,
do.
thank you.
And thank you so much for being with us, Ashley.
Absolutely, Dara. This was so much fun. Thank you.
I loved it. Thank you.